I would probably say this and make this a controversial opinion number 1071 or something. The first Guardians of the Galaxy was good, but it wasn't that good in my honest opinion. I don't know why. I just didn't find it as funny or as engaging as everybody else. I'm still glad that I watched it. I absolutely enjoyed my time watching it. I do think that it's one of the better Marvel films, but I don't know. Maybe because the humor didn't really click to me as much as anybody else, or maybe because the characters didn't click to me as much as anybody else. I remember walking out of the movie going, yeah, it was good. Wasn't great, but it was good, and I really enjoyed it. But then everybody say that it's the best movie ever, and I was like, really? Okay, good for you all. So, of course, going into Volume 2, I didn't expect really much, to be honest. I expect to be entertained, and just like the first one, I expect to have a good time. But I don't expect any forms of Marvel masterpieces or anything like that, so I went in to buy a ticket to see this movie, and what does someone like me who didn't really like the first Guardians movie, or at least didn't like it as much as anybody else, think about the sequel to this movie that everybody loved? So let's get to the plot. The plot consists of the Guardians of the Galaxy now fully form and take action. After a mission gone haywire thanks to errors within the team, the group is saved by a character who claims to be Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord's father. Oh my god, what's happening? What's going on? I'm not gonna spoil it to you because we're gonna talk about what this movie is presenting to you and what it's going to do to you as you watch the movie. So again, walking into this movie, I have practically zero expectation, especially after finding out that the first one was not that great in my honest opinion. Watching the first couple of minutes, I've gotten essentially the same vibe as the first one. Nice catchy music followed in with creative comedy that for some reason just didn't really click on me, didn't make me laugh as much as anybody else. I am still entertained, but I just really want to laugh. Well, to be fair, there are parts of the movie that make me laugh, sure. It's about as funny as the first one, definitely. A little hit and miss, but it could be a little funnier. I don't know. That's just probably me not having too much sense of humor or maybe not in the right mood, so go angry at me all you want for that. But then, after all the fun and hilarity of the intro that you get that puts you in a familiar setting just like the first one, things begin to change. The movie begins to settle down on its pace and it takes its precious time. The pace goes slower. The action got less and less intense. Things got more and more mellow. For what exactly? For a movie to take a, well, let's just say divisive change. You will either like where the movie's going on with its story, or you won't like where the movie's going on with its story. And as someone who didn't like the first one as much as anybody else, in my opinion, this new thing that the movie tries to do, it's pretty damn good. So, what am I talking about exactly? Well, the movie slows down its pacing and lessens the action and take its time to actually develop the characters. Huh. That is pretty rare for Marvel. Most Marvel movies are concerned with making sure that their audiences stick their eyes into the screen, which means that they're gonna give in, just throw in as much as action as possible, either in the middle of the movie or just throwing it all in the end. This movie is a little different. What it does in the middle is actually mellowing the pace down and taking its time to develop the characters. Oh sure, there are your actions here and there in between, but they're not as long as your average Marvel movie. The movie goes in more and more to make you understand the characters. It makes you to understand the personality, the motivation, and the character struggle to each and every one of the Guardians. This is a change that you might not like because the first one is all about the action and comedy. This one is a lot more personal. It goes way beyond than just a simple action comedy movie, and it turns itself into something personal, something intimate, and something refreshing, something that I've yet to see in Marvel in quite a long time. The movie feels like it was giving me a good time with some action and comedy that, for the most part, weren't really up to my taste, but I still enjoy it and appreciate the movie for trying. Then it slows down, and that's when it's not afraid to go deeper and personal and going into the dark territories. And after all of that, it gave me a very warm hug, a hug that is very comfortable that I reciprocate. Maybe the color pink was in there for a reason. It's a movie about heart and love. Kind of silly when you think about it, but out of all the MCU movies, it's a very refreshing change of pace. Now let's get into what I didn't like, and to be honest, this movie is not perfect. Some of you might think that it's not as good as the first one, and I can't blame you for that. It might be in terms of narrative structure. The intro was very weird. They put up speakers while fighting a giant monster for no reason, and they literally discuss the reasoning of putting said speakers. That's an excuse for the movie to have its own intro, which is a very poor excuse if you ask me. It's just kind of shoehorned in there. Now, the Walkman was quite surprisingly an important item in the end, and it would have been so much better if the intro was basically Quill fighting the monster with the Walkman, and the Walkman got detached out of him for some reason, and Quill says that the Walkman is the most important thing in his life or whatever. I don't know, just anything else other than what we got. The structure of the movie can be a bit jumbled at times. Some story bits and arcs can get messy by the time you enter the movie. It all came in and tied up in the end, which I find quite surprising, and I do love when story arcs just clash and burn into epic proportions in the end of anything. It does take quite some time, and again, the movie mellowing itself down in the middle part can be quite boring and a turnoff for some of the people expecting action and comedy. I personally love it because it honestly makes me feel for the Guardians, and it makes me feel anticipated for a sequel. I suppose that's a good thing. I would say if you love the first one, you will love the second one. Probably a lot more than the first one, because this movie will make you care for the characters in a deeper, more personal level than the connection that you made with the characters in the first one. If you don't like the first one at all like me, still, give it a watch. I honestly didn't expect this movie to tug my heartstrings, but, well, this movie does that. This movie actually makes me care for the Guardians. It is by no means a masterpiece, but it was a refreshing change of pace. Amazing job for doing something new and taking risk and making Jeremy Jahns to have feelings that I have for the first movie. Wow, that got some hate, but I respect his opinions and so do yours. Before we end this video, huge thanks to James Maki, Timur Lang 4, and Kendrick Main for the pledges on Patreon. You guys are fantastic. That's all for the video today. If you like this, you can go ahead, click like button, and subscribe for more. If you wish, you can support me on Patreon. And thanks for watching.